In this video, we're going to talk about exceptions. Finally, we get to exceptions. So we're now going to be able to handle errors that we couldn't deal with before. Okay, so after reading this section, our program should never just crash out. Okay, they can stop, but we can choose the way in which they stop, if that makes some sense. Okay, so in this first program here, just divides one number by the other. Okay, we run it. We should see that it works okay. If I do a 5 and a 2, gives me the answer, no problem. But if I run it and I enter a 5 and a 0, now we got trouble. Okay, the trouble we have is this 0 division error. Okay, this looks pretty ugly and the user will be confused and not know what's going on. Okay, so what we need to do is do an exception. Okay, so for right now, we'll just go ahead and put this try block. Okay, so try, it's a block command, so it has the semicolon or the colon. Okay, then everything that we want to protect is going to be inside of that. Okay, so we're worried about the division by 0. Okay, we do the word except, and we do exactly what it was called. Sorry, and it pops up from good 0 division error. Okay, so what happens if I try to do this result and it gives me a division by 0 error? It's going to drop down here, and I can say print cannot divide by 0. Okay, and I could certainly handle this and go back and ask them again or whatever. And this doesn't get us out of the need for a validation loop, which we could have also done, right? We could have just, when they enter number 2 here, we could have said, you know, right here, we could say while num2 equal 0, just print the error and make it do it again. Okay, but this is showing what happens with these errors that we have to worry about. Okay, so now if we try this again and enter 5, 2, still works. But if I enter 5, 0, now it gives me my exact error message, cannot divide by 0. Okay, much easier for the user to deal with. Okay, so again, it's the try block that we're protecting. Okay, so you can put the try block at the top if you want. That would be okay too. Okay, here's another program, just calculates the gross pay. So how many hours did you work? You work 40 hours. You work at $10 an hour. Gross pay is 400. Okay, no issue there. Okay, but what if here, how many hours did you work? I say 37.5. Now we got an error. Okay, whenever the user types in something that it's not expected, we get a value error. Okay, if I run this again, same thing if you type in Bob there, also a value error. Okay, so to protect that, again, I'm going to do my try block. Okay, I'm going to go down and indent all of that. Okay. And then I'm going to do an exception or except on a value error. Okay. And then here I can print something reasonable. Let's enter an integer. Okay. So now again, if I run that, if I enter 5.2, gives me an error message, stops the program. If I enter Bob, same thing. Must be an integer. Okay. So there's nothing to say that we can't put more than one error condition at once, more than one exception that we're trying to get to. Okay. So in this case, I'm getting 2 numbers here. So it's possible the user could type something in here, letters or whatever, to give us trouble. Okay, so by moving the try up to here, I'm now able to get all of this. Sorry, all of this is the protection. The protection's from here. Anything that's indented, anything that is indented over from the try. Okay. So now I need to add another except down here. For the value error. And print integer, which is probably not the best ever message. I'm not sure everybody knows what an integer is, but you get the idea. The other thing we can do here is just an except. Okay. The except just means something happened. An error occurred. We don't know what. Okay. So we're now protecting all of our code here against a zero division error or a value error or a general error. Note that these excepts work kind of like else ifs work, that only one of them can happen. So if we try to do, enter a crazy number, enter a, Bob here, we only get the one error. We don't get both errors. Okay, so only one error occurs. Okay, so these are super useful things to do. Okay, and my screen went blank because it does that sometimes. So I'm not sure that shows up in the video, but I guess we'll find out. It happened before. Okay, so the other thing that we can do, or the other place where this comes in, is going to be when we're dealing with files. Okay, so let me find PyCharm. Okay, so here on my computer, I have a file called philosophers.txt, and it currently, for some reason, has a couple of numbers in it, which is fine. This program does nothing that just open the file. You ask for file name, open the file. It's going to read the file. Remember, the read brings the whole file in, prints that out, close the file. Pretty straightforward. Okay. So if I run it and enter a name that's valid, philosophers.txt, I must have typed it in incorrectly. Let's try it again. There we go. If I type it correctly, it just does, whatever, prints it out. Okay. But again, as I just did by mistake, if I do something that doesn't work, it's going to give me this file not found error. Okay. The file not found error is certainly one that you can check for. But when we're dealing with files, there's a more generic error that would also cover if the file's not readable or it's damaged or something like that. And that's going to be an IO error. Okay, so we can, again, go in here. I want to protect all of this with a try. And then down here, I'm going to have an except IO error. Okay. Print an error occurred when two R's occurred when reading the file. Okay, and then you can always put your except. Never a bad idea to go ahead and put your except error, just that. An error occurred. Okay, so now if I run it and enter the correct name, you got to make sure that it is working when you have good data, and it is. Run it again with bad data, and see, it gives me not that crazy message, but something English-like that you wrote that the user can understand. Okay, and my screen just went out again. I'll wait for it to come back. Okay, not sure why it's doing that. Okay, so that's exceptions. Okay, so again, we keep adding things to our programs. So now every program that you write from here on out needs to have exception handling. Okay, so we'll work on a project in class that will do that, and then it will just be assumed from now on that that's what we're going to be doing, and the errors will be different when we get doing different things. But that's the basic idea. You want to at least have this generic except. Okay, And we'll also talk at some point about how to recover from those errors. But from here on out, your program shouldn't just crash and give you a big ugly error message. Okay, so let me know if you have questions.